we're going to talk a little bit about marketing like a media company in crypto, which I feel, as the CMO of the Stellar Development Foundation, this is a topic near and dear to my heart. So welcome, Natasha. Let's give a round of applause to her for joining us.
Oh, warm room.
And thank Boys Club for sponsoring or co-hosting the brunch today.
The brunch is great. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Love the Stellar crew. I'm Natasha, one of the co-founders of Boys Club. Boys Club is a media company. We do podcasts and newsletters and events and a bunch of stuff on social, all talking about emerging technology and a lot of crypto. And we have a lot of fun. And we also like to sort of break down all of these things that are happening in emerging spaces around tech for people to think about how it affects their day-to-day, their work, their relationships, their life. And it's great. It's really fun.
And you've been on a conference circuit recently, so you've been traveling all around the world and found your way to Miami today. That's pretty good. Tell everyone where you've been.
We were at DevConnect in Buenos Aires earlier this month, which was really fun. Great city, a lot of amazing builders. I'm always so impressed with that conference. It's just such a global network of developers, which is really cool. And then we're here in Miami, which I can't complain. Love Miami, love being in Florida. I'm a Florida girl, so this is home for me. Well, I've been in New York for 15 years, so not really, but when I come back, I feel at home. And then next week we're going to Abu Dhabi for Breakpoint with Solana. So yeah, we're on the road. I'm on a plane.
That's a lot. And when you think about events and you think about media, how do you maximize the impact of events beyond the folks there? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So there's events that Boys Club does and produces with partners, and then there's events that we go to and cover. And there's, I think, a different strategy and approach for both. But when we first started Boys Club, we always started with events first, because I think there's something really magical and special, and you can't replicate just the energy of people being in the same room together and what can happen when people can talk and collaborate. But what often happens, I feel, with events is that there's this insane amount of energy that comes into the room, and then if you're not strategic about what happens, it's over and the moment's gone, and that's what makes it really special, but really can be very low impact if you're not thoughtful about how it shows up in the world beyond who's in the room. So I think for media, when thinking about events, it's really thinking about how it's showing up on the timeline, what the coverage is, how you're getting to a larger audience through live streaming or through stuff on social, or who's in the room that then goes to the next conference and talks about how much of an incredible event it was and what they learned and who they connected with. And I feel you guys have done an amazing job with that. Meridian was an unbelievable conference, and I, for weeks, was talking about there were so many smart people in the room doing very serious work, and that made an impact on me, and it meant I was shilling your bags for weeks after, it really just speaks to how thoughtful you guys put events on as well.
I appreciate that that you felt that way. We definitely felt that way. Something that I think about from the Stellar Development Foundation's perspective is how do you do marketing in Web3 and crypto? And one of the things I keep coming back to is that perception is so important in this market, and how you're perceived is almost half as important or equally as important as the product that you provide to people, because people won't give you the light of day. There's a lot moving around. What does a media company mindset to you mean for marketing Boys Club?
Yeah. Okay. I think a media business is an attention business. My job running Boys Club is to aggregate an audience, and the way to do that in the year of our Lord 2025 is to make a lot of noise and garner attention from the people that have some sort of impact, and then take that audience and leverage it on behalf of partners that we love. And so when I think about that as my job, the main thing I'm thinking about is storytelling. And that's first. Audience, storytelling, that's what I'm thinking about every day. For you and many other businesses, they're thinking about product. And product is first, and that's the thing that you're designing your entire marketing org around, is how you're talking about this product. I think what we've seen in crypto is that marketers are really bad at storytelling, and they don't know how to talk about their products, and they also, in the worst case scenario, are really good at getting attention. So they aren't telling a story, and they're getting a lot of attention, and it's all bad. And so I think what we think a lot about at Boys Club is, how are we working with partners to tell a story that gives their audience or their users or potential partners language to talk about their thing, and that being where the connection between media and the attention that we're seeking every day and these great products that our partners are building, and how do we sort of like bridge that gap for them.
That resonates deeply. I've been in tech marketing my whole career, and I feel like when companies are run by engineers and product people, oftentimes they start with the data and the numbers and the user acquisition, and trying immediately to work on the bottom of the funnel, just the conversion of who's showing up at your door. Talk a little bit about how you approach top of funnel and growing Boys Club. Like when you think about telling stories that is really compelling and growing your audience, like how do you think about that?
Yeah, we think a lot about story and hook. We say this all the time at Boys Club. It's like, what's happening on the timeline? What's the parade that is every day on Twitter? And how do you get behind that to leverage your own story? And so when I think about top of funnel, it's really looking at what is happening in the world, not actually what I really want to talk about. It's like, okay, this weird thing is blowing up for some reason, or everybody's talking about tariffs, or, there's always a story that's existing on the timeline every day. And it's thinking about, okay, how do I have a hook for that? And then find a way to authentically and reasonably talk about the story that I want to tell. And so honestly, I let the timeline do a lot of that work, which ends up being really fun.
When you think about a moment, maybe think of a better moment if it's a bad one, but May I Meet You? That
yes,
whole, it blew up for
I remember.
Like 3 days of the internet was just
Yeah.
plays on that, versus something big happening, like maybe a big exploit happens to Ethereum, and there's some sort of decision on whether or not they roll it back, et cetera. Maybe there's world events. How do you think about which of those events, which of those hooks, they can all be hooks,
Yeah.
which is best to grow your audience? Or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the story that you're telling and the business that you have. And I mean, you know this, you've been in a marketer for so long and been in crypto for a long time. But I think that a mistake that people try to make is that everything that's happening on the internet, they try to piggyback on. And I don't actually think that's the best approach. You have to be thoughtful about how you want perception and how you are perceived and how seriously you want to be taken. And what's fun about my job is we can talk about all of it. May I Meet You? Great. I'm going to dig into that. And then a big exploit happens and we're going to probably make a meme about that too. And that's the sort of luxury of working in media, which is really fun. But I think when you're a serious business and something happens on the timeline that your partners are going to have like a visceral fear or want to connect with you on it, how you take that story and that's happening and find a way to build trust is super, super important. And so I think it's like choosing your battles and finding a way to leverage that moment to come back to the values that you have as a business.
I think that's solid advice. And I guess when I think about the vehicle for those storytellings, there's the Boys Club brand, and then there's your personal brand or co-founders or other employees. How do you think about what to invest the most in? Are you the Boys Club brand or is it the one to lead with? How do you think about that?
I was actually just talking about this with somebody. I think that media businesses today, there's sort of like two paths that they can take. There's like creator-led media businesses that's like you're Alex Earl. I don't know if that resonates with people in the room here. Or I'm trying to think of
Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast, great, yeah. Then that's like you are led by the personality of that person, and they are front and center in all of the media that's created, and they can build huge businesses off that. That's not a small business. Or there's publishers, and that's like a Barstool Sports. And they have many creators and many writers, and maybe there's one or two people that really stand out, like the founder, Dave, or something like that. But for the most part, what you think about is the brand leading the conversation. And we think a lot about this at Boys Club. Where do we want to sit in that conversation? Where do we want to grow the business that we have? And I think that creator-led media businesses are really interesting. I think they're very fragile, and I'm not really interested in building a business that's that fragile. And I think we've been able to leverage our personal brands to bolster the business that we have, but I'm much more interested in building a publisher-style media business. And it's also true to the vision and mission of what Boys Club was when we started, which is how do we bring new voices to the new internet? And that means bringing a lot more people into the conversation that are writing newsletters and doing podcasts and on our social channels. But it does require something when creator-led media businesses are so the moment right now. It's like, how do you take what is pretty historically what media businesses look like a New York Times or, these legacy publishers, and bring those creators into that fold? So I hope that answers your question, but that's sort of how we think about it.
It does, and I think for the audience, an observation I had working at Coinbase and then watching them grow after I left is that they also sort of approach their work as like a media business, which I think is not talked about enough, which is Brian and the leadership, Emily, they're online tweeting all the time. They share each other. There's this flywheel. They'll do a product announcement. It'll come from Coinbase, and then it'll be accelerated by each of those spokespeople, and then they have investors who historically who would jump into the fold, whether it's Chris Dixon or Union Square Ventures, and they would say something, and then it would get accelerated by this media engine that they've created.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, you can marry media with a business. It doesn't have to be a Boys Club media business to take advantage of this flywheel effect of media and brand.
Totally. And I actually think any brand that exists today is a media business. Like, if you're not thinking about how you are showing up on the timeline, if you're not thinking about how you're giving people language to talk about your thing, you're going to get left behind. And so I think Coinbase is such a beautiful example of doing that so well, and having like a machine around that, where it feels really natural to see it all over the place because they've been so strategic about who's talking about their thing.
Speaking of strategic, what are the most important channels for marketing? For founders out there who may not be thinking about this, for heads of marketing across Web3 projects who are trying to prioritize, what do you think are the most important channels?
I hate to say it, but it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. I think that we oftentimes have people come to us and be like, we want a TikTok strategy. And it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. I will say that it has to be multiple channels. You have to think about how to contextualize what you're doing for each of those channels. And it's hard because that means you're showing up. It triples the work when you're thinking about content. But it's just not, it's so dependent on what your goals are, who you're trying to reach, who you want to talk to, the language that they speak, the room that they're in. And so I think that unfortunately it's sort of a thing that has to be customized to whoever is doing that work.
I think we have 1 minute left, so I want to just abruptly change topics and ask you a closing question, which is, what is the most surprising or interesting thing that has happened to you at a live event this year?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I actually have some lore. This is honestly kind of embarrassing, but whatever. We had a show that we were doing called Lunch Break, where I would have people come into my apartment in New York City, my tiny apartment in New York City, and I would make them lunch, and they would explain a topic to me. And it was really, I had this idea, and I thought this would be so fun, and it was, but it was really stressful. I'm like cooking, I'm like interviewing this person. It was like so chaotic. And every time it was fun. And like the fifth one, I brought on a friend who's really into meme coins, and The title of the episode was Get Rich or Die Trying. Long story short, we're sharing my screen, and my seed phrase gets leaked on the live stream. And it was
not her fault.
Thank you. Thank you. It's live. You can go back and watch it. It's happening live. And then someone calls him. He picks up the phone and he's like, "Oh, your wallet just got drained." And I'm like, "Ah," like I think he's joking. Like I think he's like taking the piss out of me. And I was like, "That's so funny." He's like, "No, I'm serious." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then we're on the stream and I'm playing it so cool on the stream. I'm like, let's finish the meal and then like figure it out. And then like we're like, okay, like let's turn it off. And we turn it off and I'm like, fuck. Like I freak out and I'm just like, what? And it's the craziest thing that's probably ever happened to me in my life. But what ended up happening, which is just like a beautiful story of crypto and speaks to, I guess, people loving Boys Club, which is really nice, is there was like a white hat who saw it and drained my wallet and then DM'd me on Twitter and said, I saw your seed phrase leaked. I have all your money. Let me know where to send it. And I was just like, years have been taken off my life. Like it was fully, like I just like sat in bed and I was like, I'm never doing this cooking show again. So that's the craziest thing to happen.
Wow, we're gonna end it there.
I hope I
Huge
never
round
do
of
that.
applause for Natasha and Boys Club, and we're gonna do a selfie. We're gonna do a selfie with the
Oh,
audience.
great.
Okay, so everyone, on the count of 3, I want you to kind of raise your hands in the air, and cheese. Okay, and this is a video. Okay, perfect.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thanks.
And okay.